Hello, and welcome to the Conscious Communion podcast, where we traverse through the inner dwellings of the human experience through conversation. I'm your host, Danae. Join me as we explore the interconnection of creativity and community. Hello, and welcome to a very special episode with the Conscious Communion and my dear sweet friend, Birdie. Birdie is a multidimensional teacher, student, guide, facilitator, and she is the most beautiful soul who keeps herself open to what spirit has to put forth through her. And she confidently leads by the divine and what the divine wants to put forth. So I really honor that about her. She is a yoga teacher. She is a meditation facilitator. She is a sound alchemizer and music maker, and she's a nature enthusiast and a student, again, of many kinds. She keeps herself open to whatever life has to offer her, and she lets love lead. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's such an honor to drop in with you whenever we have had the opportunity to chat and be in space with one another. I learned so much from you and how you live your life and how you exude the divine. You're a conduit. So good.
Yeah.
So I'd love to get started by how this life has found you, because most of us go off the beaten path a bit to kind of find our way. And I would love for you to share a little bit about that.
Oh, it's like, where do you begin? There's like so many little parts and areas I feel like I could kind of dive into just talking about how I even landed here. A lot of it just felt or feels very synchronistic, just like completely in my body, and this is where I'm supposed to be. But I think maybe like many people, you just get to a point where you realize that there's baggage, and there's like things that don't necessarily feel so good. And I guess I just didn't have the best childhood, and I don't think that I realized that until very later in my life. Not that I don't believe like my mother loves me. Of course, my mother loves me. But just in regards to I think who I am as a human, and being held to that. So I think that through a lot of my life, I was held up in this idea that I had to be a certain someone or attain to a certain something. And this idea that if I didn't attain to a certain something or a caliber or hold myself almost on this like pedestal, where you're like, oh, everybody should be on this pedestal, and that's just organized religion for you. So I think organized religion really, it scared me, and for the longest time I was like, this is what I believe in because this is all that I know from the age of 7, this like, that's all I know. That's like what my mother taught me. That's what she knew. That's what she found. And so it got passed on. And I think that idea of like needing to attain to something, greater than I am, you're always like, oh, I'm trying to like trying to get there. Don't know if we'll ever get there, but like, look at me on this pedestal and like everybody else come join me. And that felt really weird, praying to a man in the sky who was determining my fate. Like, where am I going when I die? And so it started to feel really energetically and emotionally like hard on my body. And like I was sitting in a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. I didn't know how I could ever admit to myself that maybe there is something else and something greater and something beyond this idea of being in this conformed box, you know? And I just started to question that. And the more that I got curious, the more I found myself in just outside of the box, you know, and kind of creating my own rules and the things that I really wanted to do. So that was like one piece of the puzzle. And then throughout my journey of coming to where I am, I struggled with a ton of abandonment. When I was 17, my father kind of like just dipped. He just like bounced. He never was in the organized religion kind of thing. He didn't believe in it. My parents just never saw eye to eye to that. Yet my mother raised me and my sister in a very Christian Baptist home. And I think at the age of 17, when I graduated high school, I graduated early. And he kind of just, it was like, I don't want to say it was his ticket out, but I think it was just like, okay, you're an adult now. I see you moving into doing your own thing. And yeah, he kind of just left my life, you know, without reason or without cause. And I think that's his own childhood issues and childhood trauma and things that he's gone through. And, but that whole moment, like when I was 17 and 18, coming into that and realizing, okay, here I am. I'm questioning where I'm going when I die. I'm scared. I'm terrified of dying because I think I'm going to hell. I didn't have a close relationship with my mother. My father is gone. I just felt lost. And this is when I was living in Florida. I was dating the wrong, I'm not even going to say men. I was dating the wrong boys, you know? Like looking for love in all the wrong places, ended up in some abusive relationships. It was just hard. And when I got to Los Angeles, because I ended up moving, I ended up going to Bend, and then I ended up going down to Los Angeles and kind of hitting, I don't even want to say rock bottom, but just finding myself in this place of knowing that love exists and that compassion and this idea of self-love is like the best thing I could give myself, and it's not going to come from anybody else but myself. That idea started to just ripple through my body. And yeah, I picked up a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, like a Buddhist book, and started reading about this idea of being present in body and being fully here for the experience and knowing that my emotions and everything that I'm going through is all normal, you know? And from there, it kind of just trickled, and it just kind of like fell everything since the very first moment when I looked in the mirror and was like, I'm okay and I love myself, and there's things I don't like about myself, and there's definitely things that I'm working on still to this day, but I genuinely love myself and I love me, and I don't need to have another person's approval to feel that, you know? So yeah, it's been an evolution from there, you know, and I don't even know. I mean, there's so many things I could go into, and that's just like the tiniest bit of it, you know?
Yeah. A dose of the layer that threads and interweaves into so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know that you, having gone through those trials, has made you the person that you are.
Mm-hmm.
That was a part of your story. And, you know, I know that you are now facilitating and mentoring others in their own evolve and supporting them to that place where they can look at themselves in the mirror and say, I love you. Mm-hmm. And that is such a vital piece to the puzzle of where we're at within our society and what's needed here on earth for us to be emboldened in our experience. And I know that you do that for others by walking them through it. Mm-hmm. How do you do that with the folks that you work with as a mentor and as a friend?
I feel that people, based on my own experience, I think that people just need the space to feel safe, and it doesn't have to be this big, thing, and sometimes I feel like we kind of get wrapped in the outside world of thinking that maybe it needs to be this way or this way, and to hold a container, everything has to be so perfect and ideal, and let's pull out my cards and light some candles, and all of that's so beautiful and it's so great, and putting intention into everything that you do is a wonderful thing. But at the end of the day, literally all I have seen in my years of doing this is people want to have a safe enough space to close their eyes. And we're not living in that kind of world where it's just okay, I feel safe in my body to close my eyes to go in so it doesn't feel weird, so I can really question and be curious about who I am and what I have to offer and my gifts. And I also don't think that a lot of us, or many of us, were trained to go into our body to find that, we look external.
Totally.
So I think that for me, and just my evolution of being a teacher and a guide and a meditation teacher and getting into sound, and now evolving into holding plant ceremonies for people, which I'm so excited about, but just it's not me in the room at the end of the day. I'm here and I am here to hold your hand and be here for you and tell you that you're okay because you still have life in your body. You're still breathing. But at the end of the day, when I am teaching classes, when I am in a workshop, I pray so hard before I go in. Because a lot of the times the messages that are coming through and the things that I am saying are being channeled from a source and a place that is very indescribable. And it's very different than organized religion,
Yes.
It's very different.
Very different.
It's not the same thing. And you can call it God, you can call it a mushroom, you can call it the dirt and the soil. You can call it your own skin, but it's something that's not separate from us. And this idea that God is separate from us is the biggest illusion that I feel that is what kept me away from loving myself for so long. It was that God is separate from me, that I'm not God, that God is not the nature that I am. And yeah, so allowing people to have that space, to be seen, to be heard, to cry, to listen to music, to feel something is my deepest belly down, heart's work is I want to make you feel something, right? Because I experienced a lot of my life really numb and kind of got just in the dark, being scared to be seen, being scared to show up, being scared to be who I am based on the judgment of family, the judgment of other friends, the judgment of people that I don't even know. And it's just not, it never was worth it. You know, it wasn't worth it. Did it teach me something? Like it taught me a lot, but it taught me like, don't be afraid of it, because how long are we here for, really? I mean, no one, like, it's like a blink of an eye.
Totally.
So,
and such a reclamation. That's a reclamation. And you being able to reclaim those pieces that were already there. You just had to rearrange them, maybe wipe them clean a little bit, just so you could stay curious and ask more questions. And wow, what an illusion we are sold that we are separate.
Yeah.
It is the biggest lie that we have been fed, and we are distracted constantly, or society attempts to distract us.
Right.
And it's up to us to do our due diligence to, stay in our bodies and stay awake to the divine source that's ever present for us all.
Right.
So what do you do for yourself to stay in tune with your intuition and everything else?
Oh, so many little practices, so many little things. I think I don't know where to start. Having a daily ritual, though, especially in the morning time, is very important. It's very sacred to me. And I know how I am when I wake up in the morning. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm very in touch with the sound of the birds and, the sound of the fountain in my backyard. And it feels peaceful in the morning. And so that's when I feel most clear. And to have that clarity in the morning and like the time for myself means going to bed earlier. It means waking up earlier, waking up with the sun. And it might be through movement. It might be through writing. It might be through meditation in the morning. It might simply just be lighting an incense and just not looking at my phone or my emails for 30 minutes, maybe making a cup of tea, like really intentionally with the plants that I'm working with that day. And like one of the biggest things for me that has got me into the rhythm of waking up earlier and not feeling depleted is like I've cut alcohol out of my system for the time being. And it feels really good because I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I was only having one glass of wine, and that's cool. No judgment to those who want to have a glass of wine. But for me, when I was waking up, even with having a glass of wine, I would feel the grogginess and the tiredness. And I just heard, I mean, I've heard this since sitting with San Pedro in Peru, but it was like, Birdie, give it up. Like, give it up and see what you're capable of. Let it go. See how you socialize. See what happens for you if you just let it go. And so that's what I'm doing, and like, it's beautiful because there's no attachment here. It's not like, oh, you're just completely alcohol free for the rest of your life. And no, it's not about that. It's like, I'm going to explore. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to see what it feels like to sit in circle and sit in communities with people and not have to have alcohol and, be in my body and let other people's choices and what they want to do be their choices, because that's exactly what it is. I have nothing to do with your choice, And so that's been a really humbling lesson for me too, is just like taking a step back and be like, how can I be humble in this situation? Because it's not like, I don't need to judge you for doing what you want to do, And so practices at home, like, they're to each his own, what works for somebody won't work for somebody else. And I feel like I've found my rhythm to help my voice, you know, and help my movement and my flow. And it feels good. You know, it's like I opened a million doors that I didn't realize were there. So it's just good.
That is good. It sounds really juicy and really sweet. And I would love for you, because you brought up the initiation with plants and the work that you are already doing, that I would love for you to share a little bit more about your relationship to the plants and plant medicine specifically, and how this work that you will soon be doing with people started.
Yeah. Well, I had a really powerful, I think it was in 2016 or 17. I could be getting the dates wrong. What's time anyways? When I was in Peru, I took Wachuma for the first time. Not planned. You know, as these things, like, I really believe that plants call us when they're ready, you know, and we're ready for them when we're ready to receive them. It's not you go out and search for it. You go out and look for it. Like, I need to do a bunch of plant medicine ceremonies just to like attain something. Like, for me, it's been I listen and then I receive. And when I was doing a yoga training, I was doing a bhakti yoga training in Peru, which is incredible. And I could go back in a heartbeat. But we ended up having the shaman guide us through a Wachuma San Pedro ceremony and take us all through the mountains and the waterfall, into this like gorgeous waterfall, while we sang to like the river and the water, and we bathed in like the beautiful waterfall. And then we headed up to Machu Picchu, and I saw Machu Picchu. And girl, like, let me tell you, it was, I literally, I don't even know if I have the words to kind of describe what happened and like what the feeling was like. But out of body experience, it was one of the first times where we rose above the clouds, and I felt like, it's like my body left, but also it's kind of like I left like a different plane, like the atmosphere changed. And when you get to the top of the clouds, I mean, it's unlike anything you've ever seen in the entire world. It's one of the most beautiful sights. We took our shoes off. You're not supposed to do that, but we took our shoes off and walked through the whole entire thing just to like feel, just to feel, you know, like all of it, like we needed our feet on the ground, on solid ground, where people lived, where people worshipped and adored and did. I mean, they were doing open heart surgeries up there, you know, I mean, like wild things. And yeah, in this journey, I just felt, I've never felt so open. Like, it was like something in my gut just was open, you know. And in that ceremony, this is funny, kind of leads back to what I was saying, but I was on San Pedro, and at the same time I had grandmother ayahuasca telling me, you can't experience me and my potency until you give up alcohol, which is like wild to have that like inner conversation in my head. And that was a whole journey itself. So I had another plant talking to me through another plant. And I ended up having a couple conversations with people that I was on the retreat with about this. There were a couple of people there that had been like sober for a while. It was just like all these little things, you know. And it's been just in the back of my head for a long time. And the power of that, just the power of the conversation I had with the plants that day and where I stood, where my 2 feet stood, was really powerful. And it navigated and kind of changed like a lot of the way that I was thinking about things and the way that I was holding on to things and kind of building walls around myself. Like I could feel all of that just kind of break down. And yeah, plants have just like followed me around since that moment, like in their own way. And specifically like psilocybin, which is what I'll be working with people and leading like ceremony with the psilocybin plant. And for me, that plant in general has just always been there for me. You know, it was the first psychedelic medicine that I ever took. And it's just been there for me through the path of leaving my home in Florida when I was in like 2013, when I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to get away from religion. I got to get away from this abandonment. I got to run away. I got to do something physical. And psilocybin was there holding my hand all the way through now, you know? And yeah, I mean, that's wild. 2013, that was 10 years ago. And since then, like, yeah, when I first took psilocybin, it was like, yeah, let's for fun. Like,
Totally.
Ended up talking to the grass for a few hours, you know? But it's changed since then, you know, and my relationship has changed. Oh, we have a relationship now. I can actually talk to you now. And for me, it's like I want to give people again the safe space, the safe container to experience something like that. That's something like I've experienced, so that maybe they can find a different way out, you know, because like I needed another way out. I didn't see any doors. I didn't see any windows. I was terrified. I felt like I was alone. And there's a lot of people I feel that are out there that might feel, you know, very similarly when they come from a place like organized religion, when they come from childhood abandonment, when they don't have the strongest relationship with their parents, when they come from an abusive home, when they come from an abusive partnership. You know, I mean, there's many people that I feel like this. No, does it cure you? Like, no. You're not going to be able to go take ayahuasca, go down to Peru, come back and be cured. Like, that's just not going to happen. It's just not how it works. It's like with any plant, you sit, you breathe, you wait, and it's patience, you know?
It's an initiation, right? It's just, Spirit gave me like a word as to what I almost see you doing. And it's like this invitation to permission. And by leading by example, that's all we can really do, right? Everyone's experience is their own experience. But if we can be the mirrors to others who are witnessing how we live our lives, that's the permission. That's the invitation towards someone else potentially doing their own due diligence to take the next step for them to live a different life.
For sure. Yeah. And like, I mean, we are all just mirrors of one another, you know, in the end of the day, like we're looking at each other like we're so separate. And like, again, that's that separation. You're separate from God. You're separate from each other. It's just like, you're separate from this cat, you know, like we're living in this idea that we're separate. And we're doing it even more these days with just giving each other more labels to attach to. Like, don't get me started on the labels. Like, we don't need any more labels.
No.
Like, we don't. I appreciate you. I see you. I love that you're giving yourself another label, but for me, that just doesn't work. I mean, I told you I had such a hard time even coming up with some sort of like bio, because I'm like, well, who am I really? Like, do I really need to
No.
do I really need to identify in that way? Do I need to give myself one identifiable label so that other people feel safe around me? Like, I don't feel like I do. And that's just me, and that's my body, and that's my truth. But I hope that also opens people up to this idea that you don't need to attach yourself to anything, to your work, to your partnership, to your friends, to what you want to be. Like, be. Just simply be.
Mm-hmm.
And you will be held in that being, you know?
So good. Yeah. Totally. Yes. 1,000%. I think the labels are so exhausting. They're so fucking exhausting. And it's these parameters that we put up around ourselves when we claim them.
Yeah.
So again, it's you permissioning others by doing that for yourself to then make space for the next person to potentially do the same for themselves. You mentioning that, it made me think so much, and it's something I'm now going to sit with more and more, because we talked about it earlier. I clam up when people ask me what I do for a living, because it doesn't feel like it's in full alignment. And I think so many people feel that.
Yeah.
You know, I know you're in firm belief that all folks are creative beings, and it's about how we uncover that to potentially maybe put forth what we have to put forth in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're uncovering each other's gifts.
Yes.
You know, and like, we can't do it alone. Like, sometimes I don't feel like we even realize our gifts until somebody else is just like, girl, you got this. Like, you are this. You know, sometimes it does take somebody else being like, hey, I see you, and I see who you are. I see what you're good at. And we limit it to like these work labels. You know, like, yeah, we all have to make an income. We all got to make money. We all have to eat. Like, those are very real logistical things. Of course, we have families to take care of. We have ourselves to take care of. Like, we need the real logistic job to keep us afloat, of course. And there are better ways to do it, you know? And I mean, yeah, maybe it sounds like utopia for everybody to just wake up tomorrow and be like, this is what I'm good at, and this is what I'm going to share. And I want to give this to you. You know, I want to give my gift to you, take it or leave it. But it's like, if we all start doing that in little ways, like, maybe we don't have to wake up tomorrow and quit our job that feeds our family. Like, don't do that. But, or do, because that's what I mean, I did it, and I was fine. But I think that if we all just participated in our life a little bit more, if we paid attention to what we're good at when we slow down, or what maybe needs a little work, if we actually let other people's mirror, if we let like those things, what am I trying to say? Like, if we take a moment to see another person and know that they are just a mirror for ourselves, that whatever is maybe triggering us, whatever is annoying us or frustrating us about something, someone else, somebody else, that's an opportunity to be like, what is happening in here? You know, like, who didn't pay attention to me when I was 11? You know, like, where did that come from? Because it came from somewhere. You know, why is somebody else's joy irritating me? You know, why is somebody else's light and shiny, beautiful? Why is that irritating me? And like, it happens to all of us. It's definitely happened to me. I mean, there's no lie. But like, why? You know? So yeah, I think it's just the support. We just need to support each other more, you know, and not get so attached to where we're going or what it needs to be like or this perfect ideation. It's unperfect and it's messy. And it's also so damn good if you just let it be.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, sometimes chaotic mess. And I think that's where so much of the juice comes in, because it's in the chaos, if you will. I think curiosity can be stirred up in the chaos. Like, that's where questions are like, what the fuck? Like, what is that about? Like you said, like, why am I feeling this? And then continuously just chasing that question further and further. And that might lead to another question and another door. And what an invitation that is, right?
But people are all of a sudden scared to question things. I mean, I feel like through 2020, through the year we don't speak of, people got really scared to question things. And now we're in this kind of this cycle of being scared to speak about what's on our mind or be curious. We're kind of scared to just like call it like it is, or disagree with somebody, or be curious about something, even though we're like, they're probably not going to like what I have to say about this. But like, we're scared to do that now, you know? And like, that is just fear infesting itself deeper and deeper and deeper. And what's wild is like, we all were a part of it and we all kind of just like watched it happen. And now it's like, if you can't take a step back and just like see that is still very much a truth. People are scared to speak their mind. They're scared to speak up, you know, and it's the, what's it called? The cancel culture and like that nonsense, the nonsense that's happening about just dismissing people completely.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
For what reason? Because I said what I said based on a story that I'm living, you know. And what's so funny is, I mean, this is probably why we get along so well, is just like how, if somebody says something that you don't agree with, watch how you respond, you know, because that's all it is. It's just a response. And you can disagree and still be so loving and humble and compassionate and curious, because disagreeing is curiosity. It's just like, okay, well, we disagree. There's another avenue. There's another pathway, you know, there's another variation of that story that I'm living. Yeah. And it's just not a one-way road. It's not a one-way path. And that's what makes it so interesting, you know?
Yeah. More than one thing can be true for both of us simultaneously. And even just saying, I see you. It's not my experience, but let me love you amidst the disagreement. Cancel culture is so prevalent and it's exhausting. It's exhausting to have to be so repulsed by someone else's experience. That's what it is. It's not having grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that compassion and forgiveness have been ever present for you in this dance through you, I mean, literally moving across the country and changing your path, right? Like that's, you got to change your stars because you decided to be curious and stay open. And that so much of that is having compassion and grace and forgiveness for yourself and your family.
Yeah.
So how do you do that for others in this season of cancel culture and everything else? I think that would be so juicy to talk about because we all could use a little more grace and forgiveness for ourselves and others, right?
How do you do it? How do you do it? I think that you just have to imagine their pain body. I'm referencing Eckhart Tolle because his book A New Earth just really helped me. But I think you just have to see that like the pain bodies in people and know that we all have a pain body and we have to treat that pain body like a baby. Yeah. Like it's a child, it's small, it's an infant, and like you would never hurt an infant. You would never hurt a baby. You would cuddle it, you would swaddle it, you would love it, you would just like nourish it. If there was no one around, and that's the thing is like with these emotions and these feelings and these experiences, people often feel like there's no one around. It's just like, oh, well, here's my anger. It's showing up as a big fat baby and there's no one around to hold me and just let me be fucking angry, like let me be in this rage and tell me that that's okay. Right. Because it's just the body, it's just the body kind of expanding itself and opening up. And I know for like, maybe the reason that like I'm wanting to create all these like safe spaces for people is because for so long in my childhood, it was like, I'm not safe enough to do X, Y, and Z. Like, don't have sex before marriage. That's not okay. You're not allowed to be gay or bisexual, that's not okay. Like all of these things that were like, no, please don't do this. Cursing, even like the tiniest of things, and you get built up enough. Like for me, I was having to go to church like 3 times a week, and sometimes it's like Bible studies, and it was just suppressing my nature, like who I was, because it was like, no, I can't do this. I'm not allowed. And it wasn't until my 20s that I gave myself the actual permission to be like, I am allowed to do this. Like I am allowed to be this, but it took a safe space for me to explore that. It took a safe space. It took one of my first yoga trainings, and it took a couple of yoga studios where the teachers were just really incredible at what they did to give me the space to like let that out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it has to go somewhere. Otherwise it just stays. And all these things that start happening in our body, whether they like show out in a physical form, which often they do, they show up physically or they show up vocally. Like if we don't find a way to just release them through any kind of practice, it doesn't have to be through yoga. It doesn't have to be through meditation. It could be through breathing. It could be through a very like somatic experience. It could be through, walking barefoot in the earth for a mile, in the forest. It's the intentionality behind it that allows us to move forward or to hold on to it, and then like let it go when you're ready,
Yeah. Alchemize it, transmute it, just walk with it.
Yeah.
The visual of the pain body being a baby is really powerful. It's really, really powerful, because in my experience, so much of what's hurt and aching is from my past that wasn't provided the space that it needed to express itself in a authentic way.
Yeah.
Right? Those moments where we had to suppress ourselves because we didn't feel safe to be our true expression of self at that point in time in our life. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so much about the return. And I think it's interesting that we both came from that church culture and then wanted to retrace our ancestral roots. And that was the door that kind of like cracked open for the both of us and our own experiences. And knock, knock, what's here for me? And then everything comes forth, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what has that walk been like for you to reintroduce yourself to these practices and rituals?
It feels a little more grounding now. You know, and maybe it's just because I'm in my 30s now, and I just feel way more supported and supportive of my body. Because it just took time to get here and to really create those rituals. Because through my 20s, it was always like I was on this balancing, you know, kind of like a scale. And like one part of you is just like, for me, it was just like experiencing everything, doing all the things I didn't get to do, partying, going out late, like staying up until the sunrise, doing all the things that in your 20s are just like, yeah, do you, like head on, have a great time. And I did all of those things, and I don't regret anything that I've ever done. It felt good. But when I entered into my 30s, it was like I felt this immediate shift. Like I didn't think it was real. I was like, are you really going to feel like you're 30 when you're 30? But like, yes, you feel it.
Totally.
You feel it. And you know how you feel it is like hanging out with like a 21-year-old. You're like, oh shit. Like, we are not the same. And I love you. Thank you for being a mirror. But yeah, I think you just get better at like putting up those boundaries that you need for yourself. But like you were saying earlier, it's about having those boundaries, but also not being too like stickler about them. You know, it's just something I'm learning as well. It's just like, yes, you need a boundary to do X, Y, and Z. But when it comes to a point where you're just like always putting up a boundary to always self-evolve, you know, like you don't have to be this constant like healing project, you know?
Yes.
Where you're like constantly working on something and something that you have to do today. Like that's not, no matter if you have any sort of coach or any person that tells you that you're a consistent like healing project in motion, run, because you're not, you know? And that's that again, that's that like organized religion or organized like thought process in your head.
Yep.
You could even just like stem from a childhood where like parents were always trying to like tell you to get straight A's and like, you know, I mean, you know, and like be something, do something, go to college. I mean, you can have that like strict boundary set because you need to self-evolve and do better and always be better. And that's not realistic. It's not about being better and attaining better. Again, there's that like balancing pedestal. If you're going to be better, who are you better than? Yourself? Because you're just competing with yourself. You're not better than anybody else. You're only competing with yourself. So maybe it's not about being better. Maybe it's about being just in, you know? And I mean, these like practices, like these practices, like even just sitting down and closing your eyes and asking yourself what you need.
Mm-hmm.
What do I need today? Mm-hmm. What do I need at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning? You know, I mean, you can be really clear. You can answer that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just about answering the question in the present moment that you're in. Because it could change tomorrow. It could change a week from now. You know, it's like, wake up, pay attention to how you feel, and go on with your day. You know, being obsessive about being better or good is just, that's a hard lesson in the future. You know, one day at a time.
One day at a time. Yeah, I think we missed the point when it's exactly, when you started to mention the strict protocols we like put on ourselves to heal, all I thought of was that becomes the idol. Like, that becomes the idol. That's not the point.
Yeah, it's not.
And I think I'd say this, and I think so many of the conversations I have, but because I know how much you appreciate the earth and her rhythms, it is just us mirroring back what the earth does for us. It's like we're allowed to have seasons. We're supposed to.
I love that. Yeah, we're supposed to. I mean, look at the female body. We're literally connected. Our cycle is literally connected to the moon. I can't even with it. Are you joking?
Same.
That's like the one thing that I'm like, if you are not, maybe that's just being a woman, so we know, but that is wild in itself, you know? And like we're so deeply connected to the soil on our feet. We're so deeply connected that it regulates us. It literally regulates our body. And now, because of walls and concrete buildings and toxins in the air and toxins in our food, toxins in the soil, it's just creating tiny spaces and then big spaces between our feet and the natural rhythm of the planet that we're on, you know, and everything that's helped us evolve. But it's a little heartbreaking sometimes to know, you know, that we've lost this touch with the mother, you know, and we've lost this sense of gratitude for the soil. And I think that something that it was really hard for me to do, for like, it comes to my mind right now, for the longest time, because I associated praying with religion. You know, as you naturally do, you just associate, so you stay away from words like that. You stay away from words like God, and, you know, and I stayed away from those words for a long time because I was like, I don't know what that means to me. It feels really icky. I don't even want to say the word Jesus because that feels icky. Like, I'm like, but over time, like, prayer has become like it's like my medicine. And like, yes, praying, because praying is now defined by me, you know, and like, and if I'm praying, I can pray to whatever plant that's in front of me. I can have a conversation. I could pray about anything. It doesn't have to necessarily be about asking for things. And I think before, like, it was always about asking for something. It was like, mine, like, please give me something. And now it's like, oh, thank you for everything, you know? And it changed. Like, that to me is prayer. It's like, oh, that recognition that I'm here and I'm just being provided for. And it feels so rich. It's so good.
So good. Even in the hard, sticky stuff that we go through, like that's the portal. So often that's the teacher. And thank you. And thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're teaching me right now, but thank you. Because I trust you.
Yeah.
Whew. That's, I mean, yeah, that is such a, that's the invitation, I think, so often for so many of us is that we think that that's the block when that's actually the door.
Yeah, it's like the second that we're met with kind of resistance, you know, it's like, do we have it in us to keep going and to know? No, I mean, like it's, yeah, of course it's hard to keep a positive mindset all the time. Like we're human. Like, yes, of course that's hard. And at the same time, I know deep down in my bones, like if I don't maintain some sort of deep rooted positive outlook that I am being looked out for, even in the midst of this shit, because I'm going through it right now. But like, if I don't maintain that, then for me, it doesn't even feel good. It's just like, well, then I show up half-assed in everything that I do because I'm blaming the world for my problems, you know, and it's no one's fault. It's like, it's not happening for me. I'm going to choose to believe that it's happening for me. You know, it's not happening to me. It's happening for the path that I'm on, and it's okay. And I will get through it. And I'm still surviving because I'm still here. So, you know,
totally. And it's like the breath, I think, because you work with the breath as one of the many modalities that you work with, and you and I are both students of the breath, and that is just the most prevalent reminder, because even when we're feeling stuck, you can feel it in your breath. You can feel it in your energetic capacity to either breathe or, am I holding my breath right now? Maybe I'm holding my breath. Okay. How can I let more space into this vessel of mine to invite the spirit of the divine presence of all that we are into my body? And it's just, in Hebrew, breath means spirit, pneumia.
Oh, I love that. Pneumia.
And it's just, of course, that's what it means. Of course. Right? It's just, we get to dance with spirit always, because that's what keeps us alive.
Yeah.
So good.
So good.
Will you please tell folks how they can work with you and what you have available?
Yes, I can. Many things, really. I teach a bunch of classes in the Portland area. So you can find me at a couple different studios. My social handle is Journey of a Birdie, exactly how it sounds, with Birdie. You can shoot me an email or shoot me a message. I am starting to hold plant ceremonies, individual, and something else that I'll be doing is integration work, which we didn't get to talk about, but I'm really interested in holding space and containers for people that have gone through a medicine journey or gone through something really intense. It doesn't have to just be a psilocybin, but what does it look like after that? Like, how do you retain everything that the plant brought to you and keep moving forward? So I'm available for that. Private sound sessions, sound baths, any sort of group situation, led meditations or breath work as well. So a lot of things, but yeah.
Multidimensional. No labels. Multidimensional. Incredible space holder. Of many kinds. Birdie, you are such a delight. I have one final question for you. If you could provide the listeners with a dose of wisdom from your own experience, what would it be?
I think that if you have ever struggled with any sort of forgiveness in your body and in your life, with a person, with a situation, with a feeling, if you've ever experienced needing to forgive someone, and it could be yourself even, I think remembering that it is okay to let yourself and give yourself the permission to take time, because forgiveness, it does take time, and it does take love and work and a lot of energy into understanding why you were hurt in the first place. Because when you are in the depths of needing to forgive anything, it's because you were hurt. And no matter how painful it might be, just know that you are capable of forgiving. I think a lot of the times we get wrapped up in saying, I could never forgive this person for this. Like, that hurt me so bad. How could I ever forgive them for this or that or this or that? You know, we get wrapped up in this, like, never, I can't, all this language that sits permanently in the body. And so if you can remind yourself that you are capable of forgiveness, that you are allowed to forgive, it's only going to make the compassion that you're capable of that much more powerful. And you only embody who you are and the love in your body so much more, not because you've necessarily let it go, but because you've given yourself the permission to actually explore it, to actually go there, to actually say, I can forgive, I can take a breath, and I can take time. And a lot of the times people don't do that. They don't give their self the space, the time to just say, I can be here. I'll be here for a little bit, and we'll see what happens. So, yeah.
Thank you, Birdie. I definitely felt that one. I think that is such a good word for the collective, especially now. Talking about cancel culture earlier, and once we let down those barriers, we'll have a better understanding that we're not separate.
Yeah.
Totally.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time and for your energy, and just for all that you emit into whatever space you're in, including when it's just you with spirit. Like, that pours back out into wherever you go. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day wherever you're at. Hey there, it's Danae again. Just wanted to say thank you for sharing your time and energy with me. If this podcast resonates, please like, subscribe, follow, and share if you're willing. Reviews help too, so if you're feeling the vibe, please leave a review where you can. Sending all the love. Peace.